just wrong. I mean, I've seen the designers, I've seen the cars. The new Camaro, for example, is just an outstanding vehicle. Another myth is GM can't innovate. Well, that's just not right. I mean, I've seen the innovation. I've seen what they've been doing in terms of their research on alternate propulsion systems, on the Chevy Volt, on the OnStar. General Motors is innovating. They didn't always, but they're returning to that. Another myth that I hear thrown at me is, well, GM was not able to respond to international competition. Well, initially, it took them some time to respond to Toyota, but now they have, in earnest. And they've driven down their cost structure to the point that there's almost no, they've taken $5,000 out of the cost to build a vehicle by 2010, according to David Cole from the Center for Automotive Research. They're almost have brought their cost structure down to the level of Toyota's factory in Georgetown. That's now a 25-year-old factory, and those costs have gone up. GM's costs are coming down. They are not that far off anymore. So these myths, though, have dominated the debate, and these myths are one reason why I think the Obama administration forced Rick Wagner out. They call it a failure of leadership. Again, they and Steve Ratner, who's the lead decision maker on this task force, you've got the Chicago street ballers and the New York investment bankers here. They did not understand what had happened inside the company. They had no appreciation for the last 6 to 8 years of really what I think is one of the most dramatic efforts to transform a major industrial enterprise that we've ever seen. Here in Cleveland, we've seen so many industries go out. I mean, we've seen tires and rubber and steel not far away, and all these industries have been blown away over the past decades, but General Motors was making a stand to transform itself, to transform its quality, to transform its cost structure, to survive and indeed compete again. So, but the Obama-Ratner forces didn't understand that, and so they likened what was going on at General Motors with what was happening at Chrysler. They saw them in the same prism, which is completely wrong. Chrysler was mismanaged by Daimler for 10 years, and then when they left, they took all the design and engineering capability with them. Chrysler was just a shell of a company. Then it was taken over by Cerberus Capital Management and managed for purely short-term financial gains. So Chrysler had been destroyed. And Chrysler is a totally different situation than General Motors, where they have invested in the product, invested in technology and innovation, and invested in getting the structure that would allow them to compete. But they fired Rick Wagner summarily in a way that I still find shocking. So they pushed Chrysler into bankruptcy. This is an elaborate farce, ladies and gentlemen. The idea that this fellow Marchione from Fiat is going to come in and save the day is just takes my breath away. He is trying to raise money here to save his own company, which is in trouble. And the structure that they've set up, where the UAW has 55% of the shares, but Fiat is going to manage it and knit it together in this great big global enterprise overnight, creating a new major automotive company, is just hooey. That all the knowledge I have, and many people in the auto industry have, is that it just can't be done overnight. You cannot take an Italian company, meld it with Chrysler, and then take on Opel and just pluck it out of GM. First of all, GM is not going to really let Opel go. They want it to be firmly part of their design and engineering capability, because the home rooms for the mid-sized cars, the heart of GM's design and engineering capability is Opel. So they're not really going to sell it, and they're not going to really get rid of it. They want to maintain a stake in it and maintain control of it. So the Chrysler bankruptcy, forced bankruptcy, may have been necessary. It may have been that they had no chance to make it, but the stories about how it's suddenly going to be this great phoenix rising from the ashes under the control of this brilliant Italian is just, I think we'll within 2 to 3 months, we'll find out that was foolish, and the headlines will be, who is Marchione and what was he really doing? So now we face, the next 2 weeks, we face a decision about whether the Obama administration will do the same thing to General Motors. This just takes my breath away that we've reached this point. The Obama administration is saying that they want bondholders to take 10 cents on the dollar. That has to happen by May 26. 90% of the bondholders have to take 10 cents on the dollar. I get emails from people who've read the book saying, I inherited $10,000 worth of GM bonds. Am I being asked to take 10 cents on the dollar? Yes, you are. People are saying to me, you got to be out of your mind. I'm not going to do this. So, there's no chance, I don't think, that GM is going to get 90% of all bondholders to take 10 cents on the dollar. GM in filings last night said that if we go into bankruptcy, you're going to get a nickel on the dollar or less. But I think this is very different than the Chrysler case. There are much broader numbers of people holding GM bonds. I just do not think it's possible to get the 90% rate of acceptance by May 26th, that is in 11 days. So that therefore will trigger, even maybe before the June 1 deadline that the Obama administration has imposed. This is a political decision, by the way. Make it abundantly clear. The Obama people are saying, June 1, we have these things, or we pull the plug. It is a political judgment. This is not something that is happening because of what the market is saying, or it is a political judgment. They are saying on June 1, we're going to push the button and push you into Section 626 of the bankruptcy law. So this is, I mean, there's a lot of people, and I hope that there are no bankruptcy lawyers here from Jones Day. If they are, I apologize for this, but the bankruptcy lawyers are saying, oh, it can be quick, it can be surgical, it can be controlled. We can put a $150 billion company into bankruptcy court, and we can have a surgical precision. We can emerge with a clean GM, a good GM, leaving the bad assets behind. So here's how it would work. I mean, I would give this a 5% or 10% chance of working, but here's what the model would be. They would, the shareholder, the dealers, the franchise agreements would be, say, with the bad GM. The good GM would come out with the dealers they wanted. The bondholders, the people who owed money, would face years of dealing with the bad GM in bankruptcy court. The good GM would be free of that, those obligations. Its balance sheet would be better. So I mean, there's not complete insanity behind this idea that we throw them into bankruptcy and we can chop it up a little bit. But there are grave risks, in my view. One risk is, I mean, I think all of you know here that industry functions on the basis of confidence. And the auto industry is particularly dependent on confidence. Everybody in the system has to have the confidence. The suppliers, let's say there are 10,000 suppliers, they have to have the confidence that whether GM's in bankruptcy or not, that they're going to get paid. And so you have these tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. I'm sure in Cleveland you have much, I know that in Cleveland you have many of these kinds of suppliers. So the suppliers have to have confidence that they're going to get paid, or they stop making parts. They stop shipping the parts. The great risk is that then the assembly lines are at risk. GM, it tells me that they're working hard on accelerating the June payments, so these suppliers have confidence. But if GM is thrown into bankruptcy court and it goes on for 6 months, 9 months, a year, the supplier network is going to be frayed even more than it is. Many of the people are just hanging on by their fingertips right now. So it wouldn't take more than just a handful of critical failures, assuming there are no backup suppliers, for the assembly lines to be at risk of closing. That's a very serious thing. Once the assembly lines close and they can't make product, you're looking at liquidation. You're looking at how do we extract any remaining value from these assets because what are they really worth? I don't think they'll be worth much. Second major piece of this confidence chain, this delicately balanced confidence riddle is dealers and consumers. I've been to a couple of GM dealers lately, and I'd like to buy this, or I'd like to look at this. Do you have that? No. Dealers are already making decisions that we don't want to get caught with too much inventory. So they're not borrowing the money to put the inventory on their lots. The quality of the salespeople has declined. The people who really knew how to sell have taken other jobs, and the people who are there are dispirited, not as skilled. So then ultimately the consumer. Here's where the really serious piece of this equation is. GM sales declined by half in the first quarter.